the delegations are starting with civil registration and that they are struggling with a number of issues. Where they're struggling with seems to be political commitment. It's very hard to convince the government that these type of projects are necessary. Another issue is where they struggle is looking at the sustainability of projects, because that's very important for the start of an implementation. You have to see the possibility and the willingness to sustain such projects. Overall, you can see that people are overwhelmed by the complexity of this type of projects. So what seems to be as a simple registration of birth and marriage and death progressively and very quickly becomes very complex and sometimes chaotic. And I think talking to each other and doing this kind of meetings helps to sort of sort and organize the thoughts and the perspective in order to continue. Mostly it's finding a way that you can convince the government that the civil registration is something that actually is benefiting them. So, for instance, you can save money. You can save money because you don't have a lot of registrations related to population, you have only one. You have to invest less in very expensive registration processes like a census. If you're able to share data with other institutions, then you will save a lot of money in data sharing for the population in itself. So if the population is happy with services, then of course this is good for government and government trust. So that's an important spin-off. Sustainability of implementation of this type of projects is a huge issue. A lot of investments are done, especially if you invest in biometric equipment and so on. And that means that a lot of technologies are introduced, and you have to work with the capacities of the people and the organizations that are responsible. And capacities are in general low or not prepared for this kind of projects. And that means that the government needs to invest in running costs, personnel, staffing, organizational issues, strategies. This is something that is not common to the countries where you're working. But we have to prevent that we implement projects and then leave them with a functioning system, but they have no idea on how to run it and how to maintain it. I mean, there are certain principles on how to develop a system for civil registration and concepts. You always have to start from the concept that you choose to implement those projects. And once you encounter problems, you have to make sure that you find solutions and that the solution can be out of the box. But in the end, you have to also make sure that the solutions will fit in back into the concept, so that you don't lose the overall principle of what you're trying to do. Some of the countries already have invested in biometric database or the identity card, so they're on their way. So there are elements that you don't have to invest in, but you still have to get them into the concept. Some of the countries are still working on paper-based registers. Others have already have differences, have the combination paper-based, computerized systems. So there are differences in the countries, and these differences sort of identify how you have to identify or the project to be implemented.